Hello, my name's Jade. I don't really know any of you. I'll introduce myself in a minute, but when I was thinking about doing this talk, I got quite nostalgic about when I was at Northcoders, and started thinking about what it was like, and it was a big leap of faith for me, like most of you guys. Career change is what I did. I sort of had a law degree, then I was in recruitment, and then I was like, right, I'm going to be a developer now. And it was really scary, and I learnt a lot. But I've learned a lot since as well. And so I wanted to kind of talk about bridging the gap, so developer lessons after boot camp. So this, in case you're wondering, this like isn't spilling the tea on Northcoders. It's just kind of what I've learned since being here, but clickbait, you know. So an introduction about me. So I graduated Northcoders in February 2018. It's a nice picture, nostalgia. So that was in, yeah, Mitch is there somewhere. I don't know where he is.
No, I'm not. No.
Oh, there's you, Chris too. You're there.
Yeah, I thought I should be there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So this was back before the current model of teaching. This is old times, BC. And yeah, so I graduated in 2018. I used to commute from Leeds to Manchester, so I lived in Leeds, and I got a job pretty quickly afterwards. Thanks. And since then, I've got experience of working with kind of big name betting and gaming clients. I've worked for some startups, logistics and fintech startups. And I now work in a tech for good agency, so I concentrate on the NHS, councils, charities, tech projects to make the world a better place, basically. So, number one of the things I learned that Northcoders didn't teach me, that you know more than you think. I've got little gifts to go along with this to make it a little bit more interesting. So, all hail the Queen. Yeah, when I was at a boot camp, I realised that I didn't really know a lot. I knew a little bit about a lot, kind of just getting the base level here. And it was really scary. I thought I'd go into a job and everybody would know so much more than me, and I'd just shrivel up and it'll be terrible. But what I learned quite quickly was that everybody can teach someone something. So I actually started teaching people to code after about a month at Northcoders. It was terrifying. I thought they would be like, you know nothing, I know more, and it would be really embarrassing, but they didn't, because they didn't know anything and I knew a little bit more, and it was great. And if teaching's not for you, that's fine. You can still teach other people things. There was also times in the first couple of months at my job where I taught senior developers things, new language features that you learn here, because you learn like the latest things that senior developers didn't know. And they were like, what's that? Tell me about it. And even little things like VS Code shortcuts and hacks like that. So straight away I was like, oh, I know more than I thought. This is great. Actually, I can offer something to this team. I'm not just a burden on them. Number two, your code is not your worth. So when you join a development team, people are going to look at your code, and it was really scary to me at first. I had very bad imposter syndrome, as you might have gathered from slide one, and I thought everyone would think I was a terrible coder and that they'd tell me I was stupid and regret the decision they'd made. But actually, it's difficult when it comes to code because it's quite creative, you're solving problems. It can feel like that code is a part of you, and you're going to receive criticism about your code. And what you need to do is learn from it. People aren't being mean. They're not being cruel. They're trying to help. So any comments you get on a pull request or in a peer review, it's great. Ask questions. You said I did this wrong. Well, why is that? Tell me more about it. And sometimes people's comments won't always be right. It's their opinion, as a lot of code is. And so you can learn. You can have discussions. So rather than being defensive over people criticizing and giving feedback on your code, I think it's really important to embrace it and take it all on. And in my first 6 months of being a developer, that's where I learned most of the things, is in comments. And I got torn down in some of my PRs, like 40 comments in like a pull request. But it was great. Like, it was fine. Like, I never took it personally. I just took it on the chin and I learned from it. But the first one's always the hardest. It's pretty brutal first, but just take it as you're learning, and it's where you are in your learning journey, and you just need to build upon it. You will break things, and sometimes production, and it's okay. This is me every day at work. I was so scared about breaking things. I was so scared of bugs. And then one day, I broke production. The world didn't end. It was very stressful, but the world didn't end. And I learned a lot. I learned about how to deal with high pressure times, that it's not about panicking. It's kind of about staying classy, not trashy, and like taking a step back and being like, okay, this is the problem. How do I fix it on a grander scale and not just throwing code and hoping it sticks? It's kind of like a badge of honor that every developer will gain at one point. Maybe not production, but you'll definitely break things. Like, one can guarantee you'll break things. And like, even when I was here, I broke things. Like, me and Git had a complicated relationship, and I felt like, and we still do, and I broke things all the time, and it was really scary. And it's fine, you just learn from it, and every time you build upon that knowledge. This one is more of a personal play. So accessibility is really important, and you should care about it even if other people don't. So the job I'm in now, everything I make has to be accessible, because a lot of the time it's for vulnerable people. So there's a range of accessibility needs. It's not always the focus in tech and in web development. And actually, I went and saw somebody who was using a screen reader use the internet, and it was really sobering to watch. It was actually awful to watch. They were trying to book a hotel room as an example, and it was awful. They couldn't do it. It was so complicated. And from that kind of opened my eyes to it. It's not just about semantic HTML, which is important, but it's not. There's a range of accessibility needs that you need to consider. And if you think about it whilst you're coding, it makes it so much easier. And if other people don't care about it, it doesn't mean you shouldn't, because if you write code that's accessible, people will learn from you, be the change you want to see in the world. So I could do a whole talk on accessibility. If you want to ask me anything about it, like, grab me afterwards, because there's so much to learn. It's not just about screen readers. There's accessibility for people on the autistic spectrum. There's accessibility for people with anxiety, colour blindness. It's not screen readers always. So read up on it, and the code you write, just think, because if you ever saw your code out in the wild and someone couldn't use it, you feel pretty bad about it. So just try and avoid feeling like that. TDD is great, but not everyone does it. Get used to it, but encourage it. I used to love testing when I was at Northcoders. Like, TDD was my vibe. Like, red, green refactor, loved it. And then I started, I truly did.
Sounds so fake for you.
No, I used to love it. And then I started at my job, and they didn't test. We tested in production all the time. I'm not saying every company is like that, but a lot of the stuff we did there was MVPs. It was getting something out quick. Do people use it? Like, make something, see if it sticks. If it sticks, we'll make it better. And at first I was like, but we're not testing. How are we going to know if things work? And it was quite stressful, but what I learned is, if you get a ticket that has time for you to write some tests, great. If not, kind of test as you go if you can. And a lot of the times we went back and added testing afterwards, which isn't the best way to do it. But I feel like TDD is taught at Northcoders like a fairy tale story, and if you go somewhere that does it, yes. But if you don't sweat it, it'll be fine. You can, again, just like be the change you want to see. Like, if you can write tests, write them. Just because other people aren't doing it doesn't mean you can't. And people, like, developers who write tests get like a lot of respect in the team. It's like, you see a pull request and the written test, you're like, yes, this person is doing real well. So, like, be the person. Most documentation sucks. So when I was in the course, Mitch was my tutor, and I definitely will have moaned about this to him. Like, I learnt this. This is a bit of a cheat. I learnt this at Northcoders. But what I learnt afterwards was how to deal with really rubbish documentation, like so bad. And the things I do is check the source code, which always seemed like a mystery to me. I was like, I can't possibly check the source code. It's some magical thing that somebody's written. I won't understand it. And then you look at it, and it's just loads of JavaScript files that are in one place, and they just, it's nothing. So look at the source code. You learn really good stuff. Code sandbox it, like, get it in and just see what it does. And also, if the documentation is bad and you learn something, and it's open source, do a pull request, help future people, and try and add to the documentation if you can. I've done that a couple of times. It makes me feel good. I can give them back to the world. So if you can do that. And another thing, set GitHub issues. Like, you probably do that, but like forever am I searching GitHub issues and seeing like someone's post about a problem I'm having. And I'm like, yes, you've got the problem. And then they never come back to the issue. And it's like, what happens? Like, tell me how you fixed it. So collaborate with the community. The person who made the package, whatever, maybe didn't have time for documentation, but you can help out if you use it, add to it. And number 7, because I was doing the bootcamp in Manchester, I was at the mercy of Transpan Express, and it was horrific times, you feel. It was pure savagery at times. I did it over the winter, and it was tough times. So I didn't really get to know like Leeds and the dev community until I started here. And the dev community in Leeds, you probably all know this by now, but it's great. Like, there are so many meetups, workshops. There are companies doing some really cool stuff. And I felt like when I came to Leeds, I just didn't know it. So I went out there, and I've met some really good people. I've learned some really cool stuff. So I would encourage you to go to some of these. Some of this is a bias. This one, Tech for Good, my company host. It's really good. You should come along. We have like free pizza and beer, and we talk about Tech for Good stuff. But all of these are really good things, and you should get involved. I think software development is a bit of a team sport, I think. Even if not just your company, it's everybody. We all need to collaborate. So getting out in the community and talking to people and learning stuff, we all kind of build from it, and we all get better, and we can be an awesome community. And that is it. That are my 7 things I learned. I didn't learn at Northcoders. That's if you want to talk to me about anything, that's my Twitter, because I realise I'm not here, so if you want to talk to me about anything, that's me. Yeah, and thank you very much.
Are you doing questions?
I can do questions if you want questions. Go on then.
How open have you found your senior developers that you work with about being open about the mistakes that they make? Have they been vulnerable? Have they kind of been openly vulnerable about that and said, look, we push things into production that are broken as well? Or how have you found that in general?
I was really lucky when I started. I had a really good senior dev who I worked under. He was open, and he was really good. He was kind of he left me to it, but also supported me. And if I did make mistakes, and he would see myself beating myself up about them, he'd be like, "It's fine, it happens." But I think also just naturally being in a dev team, you see senior devs making mistakes anyway. Like, you just see it. But I worked in quite an open, sort of chatty environment where people would talk about things. And I remember asking people, like, what's the worst thing you've ever, like, what's the biggest mistake you've ever made? And we just kind of had a chat about it, and straight away it made everyone kind of human. And quite quickly you realise that senior devs aren't like superhuman, they're just people who've been doing it longer than you. It's fine. But yeah, I think it's really important to get a good senior dev who can admit issues they've had or problems. And if it's not a senior dev you work under, like, try and find a mentor in the company or someone you can just talk to about things. I think that's really important.
Anyone else?
How did you break production?
It was a really annoying issue. So there's this thing when you add numbers together in JavaScript that like points can like add points, and it was for a delivery. It was for the logistics platform, which is like you order food. It's kind of like Deliveroo, and so orders were going up like the wrong amount. So it was actually a big issue because things were wrong. But I learned from that. I learned that you can't just simply add numbers together in JavaScript because nothing's that easy. I'd never encountered it. Yeah, it was a pretty stressful day. And we also had alerts on Slack when things would break. And as we were trying to fix it, there's like, you know, that Slack noise, that happened like every minute. So it was just me really stressing out and happened, and it was really bad. But I mean, they still kept me for a year longer, so it wasn't disastrous. It was bad.
Anyone else? Okay.
Cool. Thank you.